All right, welcome to Talk That NOLA. This week, we are kind of taking a look at some of the people and organizations that have been impacted most by the pandemic. It's been a year since the world pretty much shut down. Things changed. Everyone had to go back to being in hibernation inside. And one organization we're checking in with is the Jehovah's Witnesses in the New Orleans community, who are often seen offering literature and doing ministry in various places throughout the city. And we have not seen much of that activity as of late. So we wanted to see what has been going on with the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses. And right now I'm going to bring in, we have the U.S. spokesperson for Jehovah's Witnesses, Mr. Robert Hendricks. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome, Casey. It's good to be back.
Of course. I wanted to check in with you guys and see, locally, how many congregations and members are there of those congregations right here in the New Orleans area?
Well, we have just under 3,000 in the greater New Orleans area, and our brothers and sisters and all those who associate with us have not been going to public meetings for now about a year. It's a little more than a year now, because early on we took a very proactive stance in not only shutting down our public meetings in all our 13,000 congregations around the United States, but also suspending our public ministry. And so we are no longer in New Orleans, we're no longer on street corners, we're no longer in the airport, we're no longer in public places. In fact, we've even told our members, our congregants, that it would be a good idea to even suspend visits to return visits. We call them return visits, those who have expressed interest in Bible studies, and do all of that virtually. So our knocking went silent about a year ago, and it's been a dramatic shift for our brothers and sisters and our organization as a whole.
Has it been a challenge for members of the congregations to remain connected and focused and really engaged with the ministry?
I would say that the direct answer to that is no. But I think we have to back up a year, because a year ago, I think all of us were feeling very differently. We were feeling that way because most of us, like myself, grew up knocking on doors, going to public ministry, going to public meetings, never really contemplating a time when our organization would say, stop. We all kind of contemplated a time when we couldn't do it, perhaps like in China and Russia, where our brothers are under ban. But we never thought our organization would actually say stop. And of course, they've done it for a good reason. But hearing that was something new to our ears. And so it was a little disenfranchising at first. There was no doubt about it. It affected us in a very profound way, even emotionally. But it only took a few weeks for us to realize that not only were we in for the long haul, but also that we could actually be very effective in doing alternative forms of ministry. What's interesting is that since about 1939, this organization has continued to counsel us, admonish us to find alternative ways to reach people. It's amazing that it goes back that long, but it has been consistently our message for more than a half a century. We've trained each other to do telephone witnessing, letter writing. We have publications on how to do these things. We have asked our members, our congregants, those who participate in the ministry, or we call them publishers, we've asked them, find alternative ways to reach people, because people aren't home anymore. And it's just amazing that we have been kind of forced into this to a certain degree, and it has turned out to be such a blessing.
Yeah, and it seems it hasn't been a major shift. It's more just doing more of the things you had already been preparing for.
Well, you're absolutely right. Let me just be honest, though. It was a major shift for me. I've been knocking on doors since I was walking. I made my personal dedication when I was 15 years old, but I've actually been a publisher, somebody who actually goes out on a monthly basis, since I was 6 years old. And so to have a situation where now I had to shift my ministry, even though for years and years we've been told you need to shift your ministry. Now I had to do it. It was difficult for me, and I would have to dare say for many others. But as we have done it, we have seen tremendous results. In fact, in many of our congregations, not having meetings in person, we immediately saw increases in our meeting attendance. In fact, in in many places 20%, 25%. And we thought, well, that was at the beginning. It's easy to get to a virtual meeting. But that has really been sustained. We have only heard those reports throughout the branch territory that our meeting attendance is higher, that our ministry, folks are participating on a regular basis and finding enjoyment in it, that in some of our congregations, we're actually covering our areas, our territories, our congregational territories in a more efficient and effective way, reaching more people. And these telephone witnessings, these calls have been amazing as well because they've allowed us to bring comfort to our neighbors at a very, very difficult time. And many have responded in a positive way. In fact, throughout the branch territory, we have had many people who have become Jehovah's Witnesses and never go to a Kingdom Hall, never see the inside of a Kingdom Hall, never knock on a door, never go to our conventions, which are our signature event each year. And this is all they know. And if you asked me a year ago if that could ever happen, I would have said no. But today, it's the norm. We're still growing.
And that was going to be my next question. I mean, what has been the success of seeing these methods be used more widely as a result of the efforts of the ministry?
Well, I think the success has been manifold, many different ways. For example, when we went from door to door, most witnesses who worked 5 days a week or 6 went out on the weekends. And so typically on a Saturday morning, it would be difficult to find people home, or during the week, it would be difficult to find people home. But we did find many of the same people home each time we visited. And many of the same people who weren't home were repeat not homes. And so now I think not only are we reaching those that we would typically have reached, but we're reaching a whole new world, a whole new subset of community. And that has been a great blessing. We've also been able, at our virtual meetings, to embrace a whole new part of our congregation in a different way. For many years, ever since I was a kid, we had a call-in number. So people could call in, our dear ones we called them shut-ins, but they might have been disabled or elderly or sick or maybe staying home because of sickness. Or maybe limited mobility, whatever it is, they would call in, and it would actually be very good. They'd have an app sometimes on their phone, and it would be a good, clear connection. But we couldn't see their faces. We couldn't associate with them, and very rarely did we ever hear their voice. So all of a sudden now we have all of these folks. It's almost like being reintroduced to your family. And not only being able to see them a few times a year by getting over their house or connecting with them in some way, but being able to see them every week, twice a week, and then going in breakout rooms, not only being able to see them, but also hear them so they could express their faith, because our meetings are basically discussion-based, 80% of our meetings. And then being able to go into breakout room and being able to spend time with them, even if they don't have their camera on, because sometimes that happens. But hearing their voice, talking with them, it's been encouraging to all. And even though there has been a level of Zoom fatigue for most of us, all of us have prayed to make sure that we are participating, because we have been upbuilt by it, and so have many, many others. So those have been benefits I don't think a year ago we could have ever imagined.
Yeah, I do want to take one step back and talk a little bit about the organization and why the decision was made in the beginning a year ago to switch to a virtual platform and to suspend the public ministry. What was some of the reasoning behind that?
Well, I think the reasoning was love. So people wonder, why do you come to the doors all the time? It's love. We love our God, and we love our neighbor, and we love what we have learned. And so it motivated us to come to them, to go to them, to invite them to our public meetings at no cost, no collections, to invite them to our conventions, to invite them to our very special day, our memorial each year. It was motivated by love. The very same thing that motivated us to go to them motivated us to not go to them, because we love them, and we saw, there's a proverb that says, wise is the one who sees the danger and conceals himself. And so the organization was proactive. I don't think, put it this way, I don't think a year ago we thought this would last a year. But it was very clear it had potential to be devastating, and it has been. And so out of caution, everybody was canceled. All ministry was suspended. All meetings were canceled, right? All public meetings were canceled. We were virtual. And even though it wasn't in places like rurals in around the United States, it had hit New Orleans very bad, very profoundly right away, and also New York and California and Texas. But it was clear that a pandemic is a pandemic. It spreads. And the last thing we would ever want to do is bring a pandemic, bring this deadly disease to our neighbor, or take it away and bring it to our families or congregation. So that speaks to our view of life. You think about Jesus and his Father's view, the Creator's view of life, and life is sacred. Losing one life is one life too many. And we recognize that we could still worship, we could still preach, we could still show love, even if we didn't have a building to do it in, even if we couldn't go from door to door. Because spirituality transcends the building. And spirituality even transcends face-to-face communication. It can, and it has proven to be that over the last year.
Yeah. And, looking forward, let's reality is things are opening up. Businesses are getting back to normal. Governments are allowing fewer restrictions and things of that nature. Will you, as an organization, kind of follow that trend, or will we ever see witnesses return to door-to-door knocking and offering literature at carts in the city again?
Our hope is that we do see that again in the future. But at this moment, right now, we don't see that in the future, because the future is something we can't predict. We're not prophets, and neither are health experts. And what we do know is that the disease has crested or has plateaued over the last 6 weeks, but this week has spiked again. And that's exactly what experts said would happen, that we would see these variants take hold, like in New York City. One report said 39% of those who have been infected with a variant. 39%, same is true in Florida. And so we're going to be very, very careful. We're not going to risk our brothers and sisters, our neighbors, just because we have a personal preference. Our principles, the principle of love and sacredness of life, has to transcend our personal preference. We have to put it before our preference, even though we have a desire to see each other again.
So I really appreciate you taking some time out to kind of discuss the way of the decision making and also where things are with the organization. And I really hope that one day the future does allow things to get back to more normal situations. But for now, we understand, the organization has definitely made some difficult decisions, but it's for the, as you said, the benefit of showing love and consideration to our neighbors. So thank you so much, Robert, for the time.
What a pleasure to be with you again, Casey. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.